Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I'm going to teach you an overlapping fun fold today that is absolutely adorable. In addition to the card that I'm going to be sharing with you, I have two other variations as well, so make sure you hang with me to the end of the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love to encourage you to do so. Make sure to click the bell icon that's next to it so you'll receive notifications when I'm live right here on YouTube, as well as when I share a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Let's start with the focal point that will be on the front of this fun fold card. I'm using the Snowman Season stamp set. This also has a coordinating snowman builder punch. I mounted my snowman image for this card here, and I'm going to be using the Memento Black ink pad. I'm going to be using Stampin' Blends markers. This is a water-based ink, which will ensure that the alcohol from my markers does not bleed. Then I'll go ahead and I'll stamp this image here. Since there are snowballs above his head, I want to make sure that I stamp this image near the bottom so everything fits. Now, while I have the ink pad out, this is the insert for the card. Since I know that my card is going to have hinges on it as well as a border at the top and the bottom, I'm going to center my greetings. And I'm going to mix and match from that stamp set. This says, hoping the season builds heartwarming memories. I'll ink that up in the Memento ink, and that will get stamped center here. I've switched over to the real red ink, which is going to coordinate with some of the cardstock, and I'm stamping the words Merry Christmas directly underneath it. Photopolymer really makes stamping greetings super easy because the stamp turns the color of the ink, which makes alignment really easy. I've got my silicone craft sheet here. Let's go ahead and add those strips of designer series paper here. These are each 3/4 of an inch wide by 4. I've turned it over to what will be my wrong side, and I'm adding my Stampin' Seal Plus here. And I'm going to turn this horizontally to make it easier for my hand, and I'm going to line one strip here at the bottom and another at the top. We're going to go ahead and set that aside for just a moment. And let's go back here to our image. And I have one that's already finished for you, but I want to give you a tip about a little bit of shading. I want to add a little dimension to that snowman. So I pulled out the light balmy blue Stampin' Blends marker, and I'm using that fine brush tip, and I'm going to add a little color here along the side and along the bottom, and the same thing here in this area, and then one more time on this area. You can see that I wasn't real strategic about where I placed it or how neat it was. I'm also going to add a little bit here to those snowbanks and a little bit here underneath. Alcohol markers need a few moments for the alcohol to evaporate to process. So while that's waiting, I want to talk you through what we're going to do next. I'm going to be using the color lifter. And this actually does lift color as well as move color. This marker is also dual-ended, just like the Stampin' Blends. The color lifter is actually going to remove or fade out some of that color, which is going to look more shaded here when we're finished. I'm going to be using the chiseled end of this marker here. And I'm going to work some small circular motions right around here just to lighten that up. Now, it's not going to look like much right now because remember, as I said, the alcohol base in the marker is actually going to have to process on that cardstock, which takes a few seconds. And as I said, I had one that was all finished for you here. I used the real red combination for the hat and the scarf. I used the pumpkin pie for the nose and the shaded spruce here for the tree. I have my Stampin' Trimmer here, and there's both a light blade for scoring and a dark blade for cutting, and we're going to use the scoring blade. Remember, I have the cutting dimensions for you in a link in the video description below, which will navigate you over to my website where the pictures and the supplies are as well. This piece is 3.5 by 4 inches, and ultimately what we want to do is we want to make this a perfect square. So on the long end here, we are going to open this up and we are going to score at the 1/2 inch mark. This is going to be our left panel, but we also have a right panel. This one measures 3 by 3.5, and again, we want it square. So on the 3.5 inch side, we are going to score at a 1/2 inch. I'm going to start with the right panel, and I'm going to use my bone folder to crease these up. I want to be able to see a good definition of where that adhesive is going to go. And then I'm going to keep them here to the side, but I'm also going to flip them over so that the panels and the adhesives are all facing in the right direction. Then I cut a piece of designer series paper, one for each panel. I'll bring in my silicone craft sheet once again, and we're going to add adhesive to the back side. The silicone craft sheet is a wonderful accessory here in the studio, since adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it. If it gets on there, it simply rubs right off. This is going to allow me to keep my work surface nice and sticky free. Now that we have our panels attached, let's go back to that layer that we created the greeting on. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to add adhesive to the back side of this as well. I cut a layer just slightly larger than the Whisper White, and I'm going to reinforce this layer and add a little bit of color here. Now that this has been adhered, we've got our two panels. Remember, we have our right and our left. The adhesive is actually going to go here on the half-inch strip on the inside of the card. So let's work on the left side first. I'm going to open this up so it's flat to make it easier for my hand, and I'm going to run my Stampin' Seal Plus here. And then I'm going to bend it one more time so I have a slight hinge. This now is going to get centered here on the white cardstock. So let me show you what I like to do. I like to hold it like this so that I can actually get an idea of where it's going to go before I stick it down. And I'm looking to make sure that there's about equal space at the top and the bottom where the white is going to be showing here and here. Once I'm happy with it, I'm just going to press on the back side. This panel is going to do the same thing. We're going to place the adhesive here on the inside. I'm going to fold that up as well, and this is going to overlap. This is where this fun fold gets its name. And I'm looking to center this panel now over the one we just laid. Once I'm happy with it, we'll go ahead and press and secure that in place. Now to hide all of this, I have an additional layer of Whisper White cardstock. So let's add adhesive to the back side. Now that our adhesive is on, let's go ahead and layer this on the Whisper White card base. Remember that image we created? Well, I chose to go ahead and just add adhesive to the back side, and this is going to get mounted here on the right-hand side of this panel. Now, I have a couple other samples to share with you. All of them have slight variations, but before we finish this one, I wanted to add some of these adorable adhesive-backed sequins. The package comes with two sheets, and you'll notice this one is a bit more iridescent, where this one is a bit more clear. I chose the iridescent for this project, and since they have adhesive already on the back, I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool here and come up underneath it. I'm going to place one of those small snowflakes here. I'll place another here, and then finally I'll place one other down here. The fun fold is very simple, but it really is quite intriguing. Now let me share those other two cards with you. This one is also a Christmas card, but you'll see how I use this beautiful brushed foil here to play up the designer series paper. Just like the other one, the panel here is centered, which opens up to the inside of the card. Now for our last card, I used the Celebrate Sunflowers, and did you notice how I've offset these panels? That left me a little room here down at the bottom to add a small greeting. Again, this opens just like the other cards with my greeting inside. I would love to know which of today's cards is your favorite. Would you go ahead and leave me a comment below? And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you are interested in receiving copies of the current catalogs, head over to lisasstampstudio.com and click on Catalogs where you can request your copy there. If you have enjoyed today's video, would you please give it a thumbs up here on YouTube, which is a like, it certainly helps. And I look forward to having you join me next time. Have a great day.